Hi everyone and welcome to day 26 of my Inktober Tangles for 2024. This tangle is a tangle that was deconstructed by Debbie New CZT and it's a really nice tangle. It's called 24/7/11. If you don't know what the fragments and reticula concept is, it's a concept that was derived by Rick and Maria, the founders of Zentangle, where you can have any number of fillers, so-called fillers for different shapes. It could be squares, triangular shapes, circular shapes, and you can repeat that shape. You can put these shapes into a grid, which is the reticula. The reticula is another word basically for a grid, and then in each of the different squares we put what is called a fragment. You can mirror these fragments or you can have them all orientated the same way, but this is a fragment tangle, so I think you'll see as we get started with this. So we're going to put a line across from the bottom left to the bottom right in each of the squares. You can do this one of the squares at a time and fill the whole thing and then move on to the next square, then so on and so on. But I quite like just working the individual steps and then repeating them. I think that's just a little bit more mindful for me. See whatever you like the best and then just go with that. As you can see, we're now putting parallel lines which go most of the length of that original line that we did, but it doesn't quite go into the corners at the bottom left and the top right. So once we've got those lines down, we're going to join the lines where they stop with the corner up here and down here. I think this pen that I'm using is a little bit thicker, not much, but it's thicker enough that I'm noticing the difference. So we've got all those parts down for that, and then from here to here we're going to create like a rice shape really. So put this rice shape so that it kind of disappears under that first bar that we did. My lines are far from perfect. You can see this is a bit thinner, and anyway, we're not going to focus too much on that, are we? So now we are going to aura either side of that original bar line that we put down. And I've obviously got only 2 aura lines here, whereas I had more in other spaces. It doesn't really matter. It's just about getting the lines down and moving through it all. The slower that you can draw these lines, the better. I'm going to turn my tile around and repeat this in the other direction. So I really liked the look of this as it was, and this is pretty much up to where the basic step out goes. But then what you can do after this is you can aura in each of these small shapes here. And you can choose to leave the tangle exactly as is right now. But what I quite liked in the step out when I was looking at it is that it was almost like there was a clover shape. So you have it so that it starts, you're drawing a curve that goes from the centre of each part of the triangle to the next part along. And this is quite a small space to fill, so even if it's not entirely correct the way you're doing it, nobody will know, you know. I'll not tell anybody. I certainly am not doing this perfectly, but I just quite like the way that it all looks when it is actually filled out. And of course you have the option as well of putting in a different pattern in the middle as well. You could ink the bits in here all together so that there's no tangle. It's just an inked in space, and that can look quite effective as well. Very dramatic looking. So we've got one more line, space I should say. So just inking those spaces that we've left once we've added our clover shape. And there we have it. That is the full pattern for 24/7/11. So I'm going to move on to the inking, the shading stage. So for me, I'm going to go underneath where either side of where that original bar was, and that'll just kind of bring the bar at the front right to the front. It'll kind of be more focused because the graphite's going to push everything else to the back. I'm going to put some graphite just either sides of these rice shapes as well. I don't know if I can call them rice shapes, they're quite fat for bits of rice, but they are still almost that kind of shape. I'm going to smooth all of that out. And when it comes to the pastel pencil, I am going to actually just put a whole chunk of, I could have done so that I had graphite either end of this, and that might be something that you want to try doing yourself. But I'm just going to fill that right in. Quite like that. And smooth that out. And I think I'm going to add just a little tiny bit of pastel pencil in these sections here where we haven't quite pulled the graphite into it. And I'm going to go over lightly on these clovers as well. I'm not colouring the clovers in as such, I'm just putting the charcoal over them, the pastel pencil over them. So now just running my blending stump over those bits. I am going to do something that I sometimes do but I don't always do. I'm going to go just on this line here, re-establish those lines where they've become muted a little bit by the graphite pencil and the pastel pencil. You can go over various different lines that you've put down if you want. I'm just going to do these ones, I think. I'll see what it looks like once I've got all that done. I'm going to draw down here again. So that's 24/7, and it's just lovely. It's a really nice tangle, and like I say, if you have these different fragments orientated in a different way, you can create a different pattern. So you can have them twisting so that all of these rice shapes are kind of more in a star, if you see what I mean, so that these two have the rice shape, the first bar lines facing around the other way. Lots and lots of different ways you can do this. Different shading, different fillers, but lots of fun anyway. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please subscribe if you've been enjoying the videos that I've been putting out, and I'll hopefully see you again for one of my other videos in the future. Thank you. Bye.